Albert Einstein, the man who changed the universe. Chapter 1. A Curious Child. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in Ulm, Germany. His parents, Hermann and Pauline Einstein, were middle-class people. His father was an engineer, while his mother was a musician. As a child, Einstein was quiet and thoughtful. In fact, he barely spoke until the age of 3. His parents worried, but when he finally began speaking, he asked deep questions about the world. The magical compass. One of the key moments in young Albert's life happened when he was 5 years old. His father gave him a magnetic compass. Albert was amazed. No matter how he turned it, the needle always pointed in the same direction. He asked himself, why does it move? What invisible force is guiding it? This simple compass sparked a lifelong fascination with science. He realized that unseen forces controlled the universe, and he wanted to understand them. Struggles in school. Einstein's school years were not easy. He attended a strict school in Munich where teachers demanded memorization and discipline, but Albert hated memorizing facts. He wanted to know why things worked the way they did. One teacher even told him, "You will never amount to anything." However, Einstein was brilliant in subjects he loved, especially math and science. By the age of 12, he had already mastered algebra and geometry. The young scientist at 16 years old, Einstein performed his first thought experiment. He imagined riding on a beam of light. Would light appear frozen if he traveled at the same speed? What would happen to time and space? This idea was the beginning of his later work on relativity. His uncle, an engineer, encouraged his love for mathematics. His mother also played a big role. She introduced him to music, which he later said helped him think creatively. A bold decision. At 15 years old, Einstein faced a major turning point. His father's business failed, and the family moved to Italy. Albert stayed behind in Germany to finish school, but he hated it. One day, he made a bold choice. He quit school and moved to Italy to join his family. However, this created a new problem. He had no high school diploma. To attend university, he applied to the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ETH, in Zurich. At first, he failed the entrance exam. His math and science skills were excellent, but he struggled with languages and humanities. He did not give up. He took extra courses and passed the next year. This was the start of his journey toward becoming one of the greatest scientists in history.
Chapter 2. The struggles of a young genius after getting into the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ETH, in Zurich. Albert Einstein faced new challenges. His way of thinking often clashed with traditional teaching methods. While most students followed instructions, Einstein preferred to explore his own ideas. A rebellious student, Einstein quickly became known as a rebellious student. He often skipped classes, believing that lectures were boring. Instead of listening to professors, he spent hours reading books on physics and mathematics on his own. One professor, Heinrich Weber, disliked Einstein's attitude and told him, "You have one great fault. You don't let yourself be taught." Despite his struggles, Einstein had a brilliant mind. He was fascinated by Isaac Newton, James Clerk Maxwell, and Ernst Mach. He spent nights discussing science with friends, developing ideas that would later change the world. Falling in love during his university years, Einstein met Mileva Morik, a physics student from Serbia. She was the only woman in his class, which was unusual at the time. They shared a deep love for science and mathematics. Some historians believe Mileva helped Einstein with his early work. Their friendship turned into a romance, but Einstein's family did not approve. His mother thought Mileva was too serious and too old for him. Struggles after graduation in 1900, Einstein graduated with a degree in physics. But instead of stepping into a promising career, he faced a major problem. He couldn't find a job. At that time, most graduates found work through professors' recommendations. But Einstein's rebellious attitude made him unpopular with his professors. For 2 years, Einstein struggled to make a living. He worked as a tutor, but he was often fired for teaching in unconventional ways. During this difficult time, Mileva became pregnant. Since they were not married, this caused a scandal. Mileva returned to Serbia to have the baby. The fate of their daughter, Lisero, remains a mystery. Some believe she was adopted, while others think she died young. A life-changing job, just as Einstein was losing hope. He finally found a job in 1902 at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His job was to review patents for new inventions, which allowed him to study how machines and technology worked. This job turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It gave Einstein enough free time to think about his own scientific ideas. At the same time, his personal life also changed. He and Mileva finally got married in 1903. With a steady jobs, Einstein's life became more stable. However, the greatest breakthrough of his career was yet to come. Chapter 3. The Miracle Year. By 1905, Albert Einstein was working at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. Though the job was not related to academic physics, it allowed him time to think deeply about science. He used his free hours to develop ideas that would soon change the world. This year, 1905, is now called Einstein's Annus Mirabilis, or Miracle Year, because he published 4 groundbreaking papers that reshaped modern physics. Paper 1. The Photoelectric Effect. The first paper explained the photoelectric effect, the process where light can knock electrons out of metal. Scientists were puzzled by this phenomenon, and Einstein had a bold idea. Light is not just a wave. It is also made of tiny energy particles called quanta, later named photons. This idea supported the emerging field of quantum mechanics. This discovery would later win him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921.
Paper 4, E equals mc squared. In his 4th paper, Einstein introduced his most famous equation. This formula shows that energy, E, and mass, m, are interchangeable. It meant that a small amount of mass could be converted into a huge amount of energy. This equation later became the foundation for nuclear energy and atomic bombs. From unknown to famous. At the beginning of 1905, Einstein was an unknown patent clerk. By the end of the year, he was one of the most important physicists in history. However, despite his success, he still struggled. He was not yet a professor, and many scientists ignored his work because he was not from a well-known university. But Einstein did not give up. Over the next few years, more physicists recognized his genius, and his life was about to change forever. Chapter 4, Rising to Fame. By 1909, Albert Einstein had gone from an unknown patent clerk to a respected physicist. His Miracle Year papers were gaining attention, and universities finally began to take him seriously. After years of struggling to find a job in academia, Einstein was offered a position as a professor at the University of Zurich. This was a turning point in his life. For the first time, he was teaching physics, engaging with students, and being recognized for his ideas. However, his greatest breakthrough was still ahead. General relativity, a new vision of the universe. While his special theory of relativity in 1905 explained the relationship between time, space, and motion, it did not fully describe gravity. Einstein wanted to go further. He aimed to redefine Newton's theory of gravity, which had been accepted for over 200 years. After years of intense work, he developed the general theory of relativity, which proposed a bold new idea. Gravity is not a force, as Newton described, but rather the warping of space and time caused by massive objects. The larger an object, the more it bends the fabric of space-time, affects how other objects move around it. This theory was revolutionary, but it needed proof. The 1919 solar eclipse, proof of genius. Einstein's theory predicts that light bends when it passes near a massive object, like the sun. But how could this be tested? The answer came in 1919. When British astronomer Sir Arthur Eddington organized an expedition to observe a solar eclipse. During the eclipse, the sun would be covered, allowing scientists to see whether starlight was bending around it, just as Einstein had predicted. When the results were published, they confirmed Einstein's theory: gravity does bend light. This discovery made front-page news around the world. Overnight, Einstein became a global celebrity, the world's most famous scientist. After 1919, Einstein was no longer just a physicist, he was a symbol of genius. His wild, uncombed hair and deep-thinking expression made him an icon. However, fame came with challenges. He was overwhelmed by lecture invitations, interviews, and public events. Some scientists criticize his work because it challenges traditional views. He also faced anti-Semitism in Germany, where some people rejected his ideas because he was Jewish. Despite these obstacles, Einstein continued to push the boundaries of science. He knew his work had only just begun. Chapter 5: Fame, Challenges, and a Changing World. By the 1920s, Albert Einstein had become one of the most famous people on the planet. His theory of general relativity had been proven, and he was celebrated as a scientific genius. However, with fame came new challenges, political worries, personal struggles, and a rapidly changing world. Einstein's travels and global recognition. After the 1919 eclipse experiment, Einstein received invitations from universities and governments worldwide. He traveled to the United States, Japan, France, and Britain, giving lectures on his discoveries. In 1921, he visited the United States for the first time. Thousands of people gathered to hear him speak, and newspapers called him the new Newton. During this trip, Einstein also worked to support Jewish causes. He helped raise funds for the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, showing his commitment to education and scientific progress. Later that year, he received the Nobel Prize in Physics, but not for relativity. Instead, he won it for his work on the photoelectric effect, which was the foundation of quantum mechanics. Despite this honor, Einstein was already looking forward to new scientific challenges. Scientific conflicts, the rise of quantum mechanics. In the 1920s, a new scientific field was emerging: quantum mechanics. This theory, led by scientists like Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, focuses on the strange and unpredictable behavior of tiny particles. At first, Einstein supported quantum mechanics because it built on his own discoveries. However, He soon became uncomfortable with one of its main ideas. Quantum mechanics suggested that particles do not have definite properties until they are observed. This meant that the universe was based on probability, not certainty. Einstein disagreed, famously saying, "God does not play dice with the universe." This disagreement led to intense debates between Einstein and other physicists. Although he regarded their work, he spent the rest of his life trying to prove that there must be a deeper, hidden order in nature. The rise of Nazi Germany and Einstein's escape. While Einstein was debating science, the political situation in Germany was getting worse. In the early 1930s, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party gained power. Einstein, being Jewish and a public intellectual, became a target. Nazi newspapers attacked him, calling his work Jewish physics. His books were burned in public. His house was raided, and his name appeared on assassination lists. Realizing he was no longer safe, Einstein left Germany in 1933, never to return. He moved to the United States, accepting a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. At age 54, he had to start a new life in a new country. Despite losing his homeland, Einstein was determined to continue his work. However, a new challenge was waiting for him: the development of nuclear weapons. Chapter 6: Einstein and the Atomic Bomb. By the late 1930s, the world was on the brink of World War II. Scientists in Europe discovered that splitting an atom could release enormous energy. This process, called nuclear fission, makes it possible to create a powerful new weapon, the atomic bomb. The Einstein-Szilard letter. In 1939, physicist Leo Szilard realized that Nazi Germany might try to develop an atomic bomb. Concerned about this danger, he approached Einstein, who was one of the few scientists regarded by world leaders. Together, they wrote a letter to U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warned that Germany might be working on a nuclear weapon. The U.S. needed to start its own atomic research program. This letter leads to the creation of the Manhattan Project, the top-secret program that developed the first atomic bombs. Regret and the fight for peace. Although Einstein's letter helped start nuclear weapons research, he never worked on the bomb itself. He was a pacifist who believed in science for peace, not war. When the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, Einstein was deeply saddened. He later said, "Had I known that the Germans would not succeed in developing an atomic bomb, I would not have lifted a finger." After the war, he became one of the world's strongest voices for nuclear disarmament. He warned that atomic weapons could destroy humanity and called for global cooperation to prevent another war. Einstein's final years. In his later years, Einstein continued to pursue scientific questions. He spent decades searching for a unified field theory, a way to connect gravity, electromagnetism, and quantum physics. Despite his efforts, he never found a final answer. Einstein remained at Princeton University, living a simple life. He refused many government positions and declined the offer to become Israel's first president. In 1955, at age 76, he died from an aortic aneurysm. His last words remain unknown. He spoke them in German, but the nurse did not understand the language. Einstein's legacy. Although Einstein passed away, his ideas live on. His theories shaped modern physics, space travel, and technology. His work on relativity, quantum mechanics, and energy continues to influence scientists today. More than just a genius, Einstein was a symbol of curiosity, creativity, and peace. He proved that thinking differently can change the world. Albert Einstein's journey teaches us that curiosity and perseverance can change the world. His ideas continue to shape science, and his wisdom reminds us of the importance of peace. What do you think was his greatest contribution to humanity? Let us know in the comments.